Oh, good evening and welcome back to Andy's Cavern. How are we all doing tonight, folks? We've got a special guest on tonight. We've got Bob from Canada's Boxing Channel joining us live in the cavern this very evening. How are we doing, Bob?
We're doing good. Can you see me? I'm having difficulty getting connected here.
Yeah, I can
Oh, there we go.
see you loud and clear.
You can see me and you can hear me.
Yeah, all good.
Okay.
All good.
Hey, everybody.
How are we doing? We all well?
Oh, we're well. We're very well.
Having a good day. You look like you've been busy with that chainsaw.
Yeah, I was. I've got this big pile of logs that I had delivered last year. They're all birch, and I've started already the process of sawing them up and stacking them for next winter. But it was really hard wood, and I'm finding I'm spending as much time sharpening my chains as I am of cutting the wood.
It's a good workout using a chainsaw, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and all the bending and the lifting, and I was I was laughing because as I was stacking the logs, I noticed one of my dogs was just lying in the barn, sunning herself and all covered in hay, and I put a post up on social media that it was a dog's life.
You're doing all the hard graft, and the dog's
Yeah.
just chilling out.
But last year I left it a bit late to start doing my logs, and I found myself sort of in a bit of a race with the winter kind of thing. Because once the snow is
Yeah.
down, and it's too late to go and get any fresh and cut them up. So I figured, I'll just do an hour a day, whatever, work my way through it slowly, and try and get a bit of exercise as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
as you may or may not know, I'm trying to get down to the svelte 195 again. When I came back from vacation, I was 215. I'm now 20. Well, let's call it 205. It was 204.8, but I basically Chris Eubank Jr.'d myself to get to 204.8. So I'm trying to get back to that lean sub 200 level.
Lean,
But
mean fighting machine.
well, it's hard because I mean, at my advanced age, I'm no longer the athlete that I once was. And of course, at my advanced age, I always think that I was a better athlete than I really was, anyhow.
Memory blurs things a wee bit. Yeah, I'm trying to lose weight myself. So I was trying to, I think my target is about probably somewhere about 170. 170, it's 175. Yeah, 175. Probably 175, round about that. If I can get down to that, I'll be happy. Then I've got to start running again. And my aim is to do a sub 60 minute 10K. That's because the last time I
Yeah,
did a 10K, it took me 1 hour and 29 seconds, and I was furious. I was doing it for charity, but
yeah,
I used to run at a quicker pace, but I kept picking up stupid injuries. And
yeah.
because I was doing it for charity, I wanted to make sure I finished it. So I dropped my pace, and I was disappointed I wasn't under an hour. So now I've got this in my head that I've got to do another 10K and doing it. And that's probably 10 years ago since I did a 10K or somewhere
Well,
about that. So I need to knuckle down and
it's probably about 15 years since I did it. Oh no, not 15. Probably about 10 years since I did a 10K as well.
yeah,
I found I could run through my 50s into my late 50s.
that's good going.
Um, but once I clicked over 60, yeah, now it's all sort of in that rear view mirror.
Yeah, when I was the quickest I did a 10K and was 45, was it 45 minutes, I think. That's a long time ago. That's probably 19 years ago. And I ran with a
Okay.
guy at that time, a guy called Brian, I forget his last name. He worked at the garage I worked at. I think he was ex Special Forces or something. And he was at the time he was 59, and
Yeah,
I ran with him on that run. But after 5 miles, I had to let him go because I was just a wee bit too quick for me, the pace. But it got me
yeah,
a better time than I'd ever done before. I was chuffed with that. Normally, I was around about 50 minutes when I
yeah. I
did.
think my best ever was somewhere around 47, 48, something like that. I don't
That's,
recall exactly, and it was
Yeah.
when I was training for the Victoria Marathon, which,
Ah,
oh
right.
my goodness, we're going back quite a few years when I did that. I've done two full marathons in my life. They're now well behind me. Now
That,
it's now the thought of going 26 miles is definitely only in my truck.
well, I did one last year. It wasn't a running marathon; it was a hike, and there was a lot of steep inclines, and I can't remember the elevations it was pretty brutal. I think I did it under 8 hours, but it was hard going. I was hoping to do 15-minute miles because that's what I've been training at for sort of power walking. But there is a video on my channel about
I I've seen it. Yeah, I've
I,
seen it. You know, the way to increase that pace is to get a jaguar or a crocodile chasing you.
I couldn't have got away. I would have just been. The only thing wasn't sore after it was my feet because I got really good shoes and good socks. So that's really
Well,
important.
I sent you the pictures yesterday of the bear that was down in my back field there.
Yeah.
If that bear had been behind you, you'd have definitely
Ah,
increased the pace.
that helped my pace a wee bit. Yeah. Was that a black bear that was there, Bob?
Yeah, black bear.
Yeah.
I believe it's the bear that actually ate my neighbor's piglets. So so he's already got form for being a naughty boy.
Big bad bear.
Um, yeah, he's magnificent looking. I love bears. They're so humanistic in their behavior patterns.
Yeah.
They are clearly dangerous, and I was quite close to that one. But
Stunning
I
creatures.
always carry bear spray with me, and I also had my wife with me, and so I'm thinking that she would be a more delicate morsel to eat than me, anyhow.
You see, if you don't, you're not going to outrun the bear as long as you outrun the wife. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, what's on your mind today, boxing wise?
Well, I think last night I saw the Nayu and OU fight and against Ramon Cardenas, and I know you got dropped. Not for the first time he's been dropped before, but the punch that dropped him actually reminded me of when Manny Pacquiao dropped. I think the guy was fighting Southpaw, wasn't he? I remember Manny Pacquiao, well, he knocked Ricky Hatton into another planet, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah,
Sparked him right, but it was a similar punch. I thought
yeah.
that, but except to know he got up again, and he's pretty resilient, and he got up and he did a number, and it was good to
You know,
see. It's good to see one of the top fighters this weekend actually wanting to fight and having a proper tear up. No, like some of the crap that we've witnessed out of top
well,
level boxing. It's been so disappointing weekend. Two nights I stayed up to 3 a.m. and I'm like, "Ooh, why? Why have I done this to myself?"
well. I mean, we're not alone in thinking that the cards that we saw were complete crap. Um, I I noticed that Oscar De La Hoya, who of course has got a bit of an ongoing beef with Canelo, anyhow, but
Yeah,
Oscar De La Hoya was criticizing even those fighters he promotes, and he was trashing Devin Haney, Bill Haney, Ryan Garcia. He said Teofimo Lopez was the only star that sort of came to entertain,
yeah,
and he absolutely trashed Canelo. But it was great. It was great to see a legitimate superstar, and I think Inouye is an absolute superstar. He's gone from light fly to super bantam for heaven's sake. He's like
yeah,
uh, he he came to fight because he could have, in my view, danced and boxed and won a comfortable decision over Ramon
yeah.
Is that
Cardenas,
how we say his name?
Cardenas, I
Um,
think. Yeah,
but he went toe to toe with him, and I think Inouye showed he's a little bit suspect when it comes to being caught with a left hook. But
yeah.
when he went down in the second round, I didn't think he was hurt because he kind of
Oh,
got back up and he
yeah,
knelt there, and you could see he was a little bit pissed off with himself, and then he did what he does, and he's a real joy to watch.
oh, yeah.
I
Amazing. Huh?
I really like he's a very offensive fighter, and
He's got a
again,
real ramrod jab, isn't he? He punches with
oh
authority.
yeah,
Every punch is
yeah,
punches
he
with authority.
does,
Isn't
and he's a really classy guy as well. Like in the pre fights build up, he's gentlemanly, he's decent. in anything post-fight. He's complimentary about the people he fights. I like Inouye. I think he's a really, really good fighter. And I said that they should take some of the purses away from the American multi-millionaires and give Ramon Cardenas a little bit more money, because Cardenas as well, he came to fight.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, like he could have just, done a William Schull and tried to sort of like, oh, I'm going to survive the distance. But he came to fight and he was stopped. I mean, some people say it was a premature stoppage. Personally, I didn't think
Uh,
so. I didn't think that Cardenas was going to do any more except
no,
get hurt more.
he's going to ship more
Um,
punishment, won't he?
yeah,
Going back to De La Hoya, I think if anybody's got a right to criticise these American fighters who are perhaps, as you alluded to, getting their money too easily, it's De La Hoya. You'd never see him perform like that in a fight. He was a man that came to fight, proper fighting man, De La Hoya, wasn't he? So
yeah,
he's
like
he's
11
probably gauges
world
things on.
titles.
Yeah, he probably
Ele
gauges things on his own, what he
yeah,
was doing himself. How can they know? It must disappoint him, and I can understand his frustration. Yeah.
yeah. Well, 11 world titles over 6 weight divisions, right? Um, he was probably watching those fights thinking, oh my God, like I could get in the ring and do better.
Yeah.
Just like I think you and I were talking yesterday, you imagine like Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Ray Leonard would have been watching those fights, and Sugar Ray Leonard would be absolutely livid at the performance of Garcia and Haney. Like he's probably thinking, my God, me and Hearns and Hagler and Duran, we could have thrilled this crowd,
Because
which they did, right?
oh yeah, I mean,
And so
in effect,
yeah,
these guys are supposed to be the successors to the likes Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran and Hearns, but it's a bit of a joke, the performances they put on at the weekend. To have so many dull fights from top level opposition, it just shows you that fighters that are not top level can often put on a bit. Even Ben Eubank, that was a much better fight than
oh,
any of these fights, and they're allegedly not at the same level as these guys. So you start to
Ben
wonder that.
Eubank was a Ben Eubank was a much better fight. Um, and I think about fighters who are simply not in the same league as these guys. Like you remember when Josh Padley fought against Shakur
Yeah,
Stevenson? Like
yeah,
Josh Padley has no business being in the ring with Shakur Stevenson on technical ability, but he came to fight. He did a great job. Like he went so up in my estimation. But these big superstars who are, I mean, mind-bogglingly rich athletes, they were just totally unimpressive. And it's embarrassing, really. It really was. So I was so super pleased to see Inouye fight. I made a video about it last night. When I was bagged, I was stupidly tired. I just finished watching the fight, and I was so excited. I came up here and made a quick video about it. It was like, yes, boxing's been saved.
and it makes a good argument for the money to be actually be taken away from the top guys and spread down a bit to the more maybe I don't want to say mediocre, but the sort of lower level guys.
Oh yeah,
Anybody who
oh
puts on
yeah,
the gear and
yeah,
gets in the ring deserves.
yeah. A bit of leveling. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course, we have no way of knowing. Nobody's going to tell me.
yeah,
But I would imagine that Turkey Al Sheikh, like he's not worried about the money, but he is worried about the reputation, especially he attaches his name to it and the Saudi, this, that, the other. I would imagine that Turkey Al Sheikh is probably quite annoyed at like the worldwide reaction to those two cards.
yeah. You get the impression that Turkey Al Sheikh genuinely wants to put on the greatest show in town. He wants to. He's
Yeah,
he's investing a lot in all that razzmatazz, you might say, and putting on a big show. So
I, I, I
for
think
to be such
so.
an anticlimax, it's got to be disappointing.
I think so. And I think he's very sensitive to how worldwide fans perceive his shows.
Yeah,
Remember when Carl Froch and others were saying, "Oh, there's no atmosphere in Riyadh" and all this sort of stuff.
yeah,
Like Turkey was quite sensitive to that, and like I think that it's all about sort of, how the show is perceived.
yeah,
Um, I'm not saying that he's like massively keen on the fights. I mean, sometimes he's sitting there and he's got his phone, right?
yeah.
But I
I
think
mean,
he really wants there to be um like customer satisfaction.
personally, I didn't really buy into all this criticism with the atmosphere because any live show I've been to, like big boxing show, I haven't been for a long time, but quite often I'd go and watch. I'd go at the beginning of the night and watch all the fights, because I like watching all the fights. But
Yeah, yeah.
majority of the time, the place is empty until the last fight or this maybe the last two fights. So there's not really any great atmosphere in this country until such times as the big fight comes on. And then that could be fueled by alcohol in some respects, because you were seeing a lot of folk coming in, fighting with each other and getting thrown out before the main fight. It's like, why pay
Well,
all that money for a ticket?
I mean, as an older man now, if I was to go to a show, I think I would feel more comfortable in a non-alcohol fueled environment
Yeah,
than maybe when I was in my 20s or 30s, right? Where I might have been into it myself. But
yeah,
but now I think I would prefer that more family friendly environment. So
yeah, yeah,
um yeah, I mean I'm obviously not going to ever be afford to go to either of a show in Wembley or in Riyadh, but I think I might actually, honestly, truly, I might prefer Riyadh now, given my
yeah,
age and all that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So
if I go, there's a show on in Glasgow coming up, Josh Kelly versus Echo Ism, I think it's British
yeah.
light welterweight championship or something like that. There's word of Moses, there's two more fighting on that card as well. There's a young guy from Perth fighting on that card, a guy called Luke Bibby, who
Yeah.
actually he's trained by Billy Nelson. Remember when Billy Nelson said he was in Wales? Well, he was down there with
Oh,
Luke Bibby, and Luke Bibby, I think it's considered. I've not seen the whole fight, but he got dropped in the last round, but got up and fought on well. But it was kind of widely thought that Luke Bibby won the fight, but maybe the Welsh guy got the hometown decision or something like that. That's from people I know that's watched it. Have told me that, so I haven't watched it again myself, but I only
so
seen
th
the 3
so
rounds.
this is a double whammy for Billy Nelson. He goes down to
Yeah.
Wales, his fighter loses, and meanwhile, the King of Scotland is eating 16 meals a day and has gained 20 pounds in the 2 weeks that Billy Nelson hasn't been supervising him.
He's put on a blue suit and turned into Cookie Monster when he's out in Riyadh. I think that's
I mean, I know you're a fan of Martin Bacoli, so I shouldn't tease you too much, but
But
yeah,
I can't excuse his lack of discipline. I'm not going to defend anybody. You can't excuse the inexcusable. You can't defend the indefensible sort of thing. But I can see Billy Nelson's frustrations with the situation. I can see him being. I can see the frustration in him when he's been interviewed because I think he's a straight talker. So you're not going to get much BS out of him. He could easily waffled his way around that, you know, and spun a story, but he didn't. He was quite open and honest. I thought he said he was too fat. He said he was too heavy. So
I
there's no
liked
getting away
I,
from that.
I liked when he was saying that Martin Bacoli goes to Glasgow to buy Congolese and African food, and Billy Nelson doesn't know what it is because he can't eat British food, laddie.
Maybe Domino's he's going to pizza place. I don't know. I dare say it could be if he's a vegetarian, if he's eating a lot of bread or something like that, he'll pile the weight on. Especially a guy
I,
his
I,
size.
I don't know.
It's,
Um, Probably. But I just thought it was funny, like, and we talked about this on my channel yesterday, and obviously, um, I feel a bit bad for Billy Nelson in a
yeah,
way, but I also feel a bit bad for Martin Bacoli now being body shamed on
yeah.
by his own manager and coach.
Maybe he's got a genuine food addiction problem or something. I don't know. It could be something. Some people just can't help themselves, can they? But they need to be.
Y-
You need to handcuff them and lock the fridge. Put a hasp and a padlock on the fridge.
Yeah, to lock the fridge and put a set of handcuffs on the big man.
Ah,
But the other thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if Martin Bacoli is like 36 years old, right? Like he's supposed to be 32, but just like Sonny Liston, we never knew how old Sonny Liston was. I wouldn't be surprised if Bacoli is older. And then shedding the weight when you're older gets harder as
it's
well,
harder.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Who's
But
the other guy? Louis Ortiz. There's doubts about his age, isn't there?
Ortiz, I
Uh,
think Ortiz was 1 year behind me in school, actually.
he's got
He
about
was the
seven
only
birth
He was the
certificates.
only Cuban guy in my comprehensive school. But yeah, I believe he was a year behind me.
He only ages a year every 4 years. Maybe born in a leap
Yeah,
year or
yeah,
something.
something like that. Yeah, he's still the hardest opponent that Deontay Wilder ever had until he fought
Yeah,
Tyson Fury.
that's right. Yeah,
So
he was totally outboxing Wilder, wasn't he?
yeah, I see Deontay's making a comeback. He's going to fight some fan of his. I can't remember the fan's name. No, seriously, the guy was a fan of his. He's got a picture next to Deontay. Apparently, they're going to fight. I can't remember the guy's name. Doesn't matter.
Did Roy Jones not do that? They fight somebody out the crowd or something. There was some funny fight Roy Jones had.
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh,
You, you, you imagine if Roy Jones Jr. had retired, um, like five years before he did, he would be hailed as an absolute legend, which he is, but he just went on too long, right?
after he beat Ruiz, I think it was crazy going back down to light heavyweight. If he'd gone back down to cruiserweight, I think he would have been all right because he was probably no more than a cruiserweight when he beat John Ruiz. He could have probably won a world title at cruiserweight and then retired. That would have been the more sensible option, I think. But cruiserweight probably at that time wasn't such a glamorous division. No, that it's
Yeah.
glamorous now, but it's probably more popular now than what it was back then. There's more
More
decent fighters.
accepted now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You
Well,
probably
I
find that
listen
Bridgerweight's the new cruiserweight. It's not very fashionable, Bridgerweight.
kind of. Yeah, that would be fair. Yeah. I listened to an interview, I don't know on which channel, of the Canadian Russ Amber, who's the cut man in Usyk's corner. And he was being asked about, when there was talk about Usyk going back to cruiser. And Russ Amber said, like, no way, no way, no how. I won't work with him. If he does that, it's stupid, it's dangerous.
Yeah,
And he went on and he explained how once you've gained that extra 20 pound of real muscle like
yeah,
Usyk has, to lose it is absolutely bad for you. And then to try and fight, right?
yeah.
It was a really good interview. If I find it, I'll flip it over to you.
Yeah, I like Ross Amber.
Um,
He talks well, doesn't he? He's well respected.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
he's from Quebec.
yeah,
He's an Anglo from Quebec. I think I'm pretty much certain he'd be fluently bilingual, but he's an Anglo Quebecois. Yeah, he's a good guy, and he's a very competent cut man as well.
oh yeah, yeah. I think I might have sent you an interview earlier on from with Emmanuel Stewart, and he was talking about Tommy Hearns going up from
Yes,
welterweight to light heavyweight and then back down. But he said, now this kind of rings true with me because if I eat after 6 p.m. or after my tea, I put weight on. And he
yeah,
said to put the weight on, that's what it did. He ate meals and lots of meals at night, and to get the weight back off again, he ate nothing after 6 p.m. So that kind of rang true with me. So that's what Tommy Hearns must have done. But because there was somebody complaining about him dropping 15 pounds. Must have
yeah.
been from light heavy down the middle. But he did it okay. But he's a big frame, Tommy Hearns, wasn't he? So and he was
Oh
quite
yeah,
he was quite
but I never really figured out how Tommy Hearns could make the weight that he did make because he was a naturally big framed man
yeah.
and an awesome, awesome fighter, eh?
Puncher is. Well, he had a big power in that right hand there. Jeez.
They don't they
Well,
don't make them like they don't make them like him anymore.
now well named the Hitman.
Absolutely. I mean, as you know, I'm um, I'm a fan of fighters of yesteryear. Though the crazy thing is, I don't consider Tommy Hearns and Ray Leonard to be fighters of yesteryear. The way in
Yeah.
my brain they're still sort of current.
They were
I
still
was
fighting 40 years ago. What's wrong with that?
I was talking to Jamie. I was talking to Jamie yesterday, and Jamie was talking about, old time fighters from the 80s. I wanted to reach down the phone and slap him because, of course, he was born in like 1990, right?
Yeah.
So he's talking about fighters who were great fighters before he was born, and I'm thinking, what do you mean? I remember those guys. I remember them coming up.
Even
Do you
all of
know?
it.
You I wanted to give him the back of the hand.
He's a
I
good
know he'll
lad,
be
James.
watching this.
He's a good.
Jamie, you nearly had the back of the hand.
We'll give a shout out to all the commission guys and a shout out to Porky's Corner as well.
Absolutely.
Helping
Yeah.
get us all together. And
I I think that everybody who's watching this has subscribed to Porky's Corner.
yeah,
If you've not subscribed to Porky's Corner, you should subscribe to Porky's Corner. You can see the likes of Andy, Jerry, Jamie, Kent, Anthony. I
Andy,
can't remember. I don't know the rest of the guys' names. I can't
Big,
remember them offhand. But there's
Big
tons of
Richard.
guys.
Big Richard's been back on. I like Big Richard. He's been
Yes,
on,
yes.
and a big shout out to Peter De Freitas because he's struggling with
Oh,
his
Peter
health.
De Freitas is excellent. I love listening to him. He's really, really, really good. Yeah,
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 I think he's got some health issues at the moment, so let's just hope and pray he gets through that okay and makes a full recovery.
yeah, yeah. And there's a
And
new fellow.
like and subscribe here as well, Andy's Cavern and Canada's Boxing Channel.
Yes, please. If you're watching this and you've not subscribed to Canada's Boxing Channel, please subscribe to Canada's Boxing Channel. Thank you.
For
Merci beaucoup.
good honest boxing chat. That's all you'll get here, and a bit of cracking banter as well.
Yeah, a bit of bullshit and whatever.
I think there's a sign up there. Bullshit corner, talk bollocks and big ideas. So my wife gave me that.
Well, again, I was talking with Jamie, and we do a regular Sunday thing, and I said that I think people really like it because it's just two guys just talking like we would in a pub, right?
Yeah.
So, on the subject of Inoue, who we were talking about, I think that's who we were talking about.
Yeah.
How do you fancy him fighting against the kung fu fighting Muay Thai legend from Liverpool, Nick the ball?
I know you've got your reservations yourself, and I totally agree with you about that knee and the kick in his last fight. But I think
A
Nick Ball is
knee and a kick.
knee
A
and the kick.
knee and a kick, my friend.
A double manoeuvres. I think he's an exciting fighter, Nick Ball. He's got that kind of Tyson-esque style, isn't he? He's all action, keeps rolling in, and
Yeah.
I think he's quite tough. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would give him a chance. I would give him probably, if he fought an OU, I'd maybe make it 55 and OU 45, Nick Ball. I think the thing I would say, an OU's 32 now, isn't he? He's getting quite old for a
Yeah.
small fighter.
Yeah.
And to step up another weight, it might just favour Nick
Yeah.
a wee bit. It's one of their fights, isn't it? It's in the balance, I think.
Because Inoue fights at 122, Nick Ball fights at 126.
Yeah.
Inouye's getting older. The extra weight would affect him. Maybe he wouldn't carry his power. I would say Nick Ball's got a good chance. I actually like Nick Ball in the ring. It's his impersonation of Richard Cranium outside of the ring that I don't like.
And
But I would
he's
say
quite a high intensity pace he fights at as well, isn't he? So we know you getting a wee bit older.
45.
Yeah, that's what I think. 55, 45, I know you, but maybe even 52, 48 or something. It's possible,
I would definitely be cheering for Inoue. I would like to see him wipe the floor, as it were, with Nick Ball, but I wouldn't be putting a lot of money on that. I think Nick Ball's a very, very good fighter.
Yeah.
I just don't like his deportments out of the ring, and I don't like his behavior sometimes in the ring. He just rubs me the wrong way, but I don't take anything away from his skills. He's a great fighter.
Yeah, I mean, up until that last fight, I didn't really have any gripes about him, but I think that it was in one of his interviews after that fight about the knee and the kick. His kind of attitude wasn't really where it should be, I thought.
Yeah, it was the TJ Doheny fight. And Doheny had sort of had him in some sort of headlock.
Yeah.
And then, he'd need him to break that. And so I would say, okay, well, that first thing is, like they're both at fault. But then he kicked him afterwards, and I thought that was bad. And then he ran off at the mouth with an interviewer afterwards, and I thought, I don't like that.
Kind of leaves a bad taste in the mouth if you're pure boxing fans like we are. It's
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want
it's just not what I like to see, right?
you can never imagine Usyk or Inoue or that doing anything like that. They're always respectful and
No. I would,
uh,
however, like to see Nick Ball pull that kind of stuff against Inoue in Japan. Ooh,
wouldn't
yes,
be
I think
accepted there, would it? He would be out there.
he would need escorts to leave the country, I
With it.
suspect. But anyhow, no, it could be a good fight if Inoue moves up, and like, did he start off at the 108 limits, or did he start off even, like he's gone up to, like, what's that, four weights?
Yeah.
There's a limit, right? There's a limit to how far you can go.
I mean, Pacquiao went up. Manny Pacquiao went up,
Eight.
and it's eight weight divisions. But then there's been speculation over how he did that, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
one of the ones, isn't
It,
it? He was
yeah,
knocking
I don't.
everybody out at one point, and then suddenly he's not knocking anybody out. There's been
Yeah.
familiar incidents like that in recent times with current fighters, isn't there?
There certainly have been. Um, on a fighter who I think there's been a little bit of rumor around that, although I don't think that there's any credit to it. I think it's really just an injury and a change in promotional circumstances. I
Mm.
see Lee Wood is making his return to the ring this Saturday, eh?
Yeah, against Anthony Kakachi.
Anthony the Apache Kakachi.
Is that his nickname? Is that I haven't heard that?
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
how he got the nickname Apache. I have been told, but I can't remember. But I like Anthony Kakachi. I actually like Lee Wood as well.
yeah,
So I don't really have a dog in this fight, but I'm leaning towards Anthony Kakachi has been able to prevail here.
yeah. I think so. Maybe a late stoppage for Kakachi. I think is probably what I'd go for.
Yeah, I think I did a video and I predicted a points win, but
Yeah,
I didn't. I said, a TKO isn't off the cards. I think Lee Wood. You know what? I'd forgotten. He hasn't fought since October 2023.
right.
And that's a long time out of the ring. Your tools, they sort of, they don't stay sharp, right?
Was that the Josh Warrington fight? And that's a fight he was
Yeah, he
winning,
stopped
wasn't
he
he? So
stopped
he,
Josh Warrington. They both their last fights, each of their last fights was against Josh Warrington. The Apache went the distance, and Lethal Lee Wood, he stopped him in seven or eight. I should remember. I just did a video on it. Seven, I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've got a favourite Kakachi. I think that's kind of my feeling on it. That's this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, I'd sort of gotten myself a little confused. I was thinking it was the 17th, but the 17th we have is it the Lazy Rhino and
The
the
Romford
Romford
Bull.
Bull?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
Dave Allen and Johnny Fisher. I kept calling for a while. I kept calling him Johnny Allen. I was getting them mixed up.
you know, I
And then I
really
looked back
like
and think, did I say Johnny Allen? But no, I hadn't. I'd said Johnny Fisher.
I really like Dave Allen, and I really want Dave Allen to win.
Yeah,
But I think Johnny Fisher is going to come in much better prepared, um, and I think Johnny Fisher is going to prevail. But I'll put a couple of dollars on Dave Allen. I have a soft spot for Dave Allen. Um, I like the guy, even though I'm annoyed at him sometimes because he doesn't take his profession seriously, or at least he appears not to. Um, but
a
I
bit like Bacoli. Maybe lacks a wee bit of discipline. I think. I think Bacoli maybe trains hard enough, but just eats too much. But Dave Allen maybe he's just a bit reluctant to train hard, isn't he? So it's
Yeah, I don't know about Dave Allen. Like, he's had a lot of problems, and
yeah.
like, if you listen to him, like, he's had a lot of issues. But I always like the guy. I think it's kind of like a hard luck story. I feel like I sympathize for him, or that's not the right word. Empathize for him.
He got a raw deal with the promoters at one time. I mean, Eddie Hearn put him in with Louis Ortiz and put him in like really early on in his career to keep him
He was
away
putting
from.
with
Ortiz should
was he
have been in
putting
with
with David
Joshua.
Price? He was putting with David Price as
And
well.
took an awful pounding off the price. I think that
Yeah.
was after he beat what was his best win was against Lucas Brown, wasn't it? I think it
Yeah.
was after he beat Lucas Brown, who had been a WBA regular champion, and they put him in with Price, but Price was put there to get beat, but Price had other ideas, and he just that was quite a sickening fight that actually, because Dave Allen took a lot of punishment. I think he retired after that, and then decided
You
to come
know,
back again. But
have you noticed Dave Allen's speech
hmm,
getting slightly
yeah,
uh, deteriorated, or is it
yeah.
just my imagination?
No, it's something Ross has alluded to for quite a while back. I mean, he took an awful pounding against Lee Ortiz. I think he had some bad mouth damage, like his tongue was split or something against Ortiz. But
That's
Ortiz,
right. That's right. He was basically drowning in his blood, wasn't he?
it could if he's got a damaged tongue or something, it could affect his speech as well. I don't know if anybody's
Yeah,
considered
that's
that,
true.
but Ross has certainly alluded to speech being an issue. Uh, Maybe since the Price fight as well. And I think he retired. He was sparring Usyk, and Usyk knocked him out on his feet, sort of thing. And that was it. That must have been enough to think, well, wait a minute, I've maybe I shouldn't be doing this or whatever. But then he has come back. But then
Yeah,
he kind of quit against Fraser Clark, didn't he?
he did. Yeah.
He was getting hit low a couple of times, I think, but he did quit. I think he admitted he quit. He just didn't. He's a
Yeah,
tough guy, though. Eh?
I think he's been quite open. There was a good there was a good conversation between Dave Allen and Johnny Fisher. I think it's called "Put Your Cards on the Table" or something. I did a video about
Yeah,
it, so you can watch my video instead. Um,
I maybe seen that. I think I had that on one day in the
but Dave
kitchen, but I
Allen
was doing
really
something else. I wasn't quite focused on it.
Dave Allen had the psychological edge over Johnny Fisher. He sort of old manned him. He
Yeah,
was sort of like, yeah, you're a great athlete. You're a really good athlete, and you're a good boxer. I'm not such a good athlete, but I'm a much better boxer. And it
yeah.
was like he sort of,
There
big
was just the
brothered him
two of
or
them,
old
wasn't there?
manned
It
him.
was just the two of them. There wasn't anybody else there, was
Yeah,
there?
yeah. I know none of these stupid looking security guards standing there looking all, like I laughed.
No.
Remember when Fabio Wardley and Miller had their press conference and Miller sort of like fake attacked. Well, they had this security guard there, and I'm thinking, like, whether you like him or not, if Miller and Wardley were actually going to go for each other, those security guards are not going to do anything. They're not going to be able to stop
Yeah.
a world class professional athlete from getting through you, right?
Is this going to be
It's all
jamming a sandwich? That's all we're going to be.
yes, yeah. And I'm thinking, if you're paying me to stand there and that guy wants to attack that guy, all of a sudden I'm like the Secret Service agents of the Trump assassination. I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm in the rear with the gear. I'm a
Yeah.
DEI hire.
I ain't getting involved for minimum wage, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, so all this is nonsense, right? I mean, but Wardley and Fisher, they seem like two decent guys, and
Oh, yeah.
I loved when Fisher imitated Allen. He was brilliant. I can't even begin to try and do it, but he said, basically, oh, I'm from Doncaster, and he like all that stuff. It was
Yeah.
very, very well done. It was very funny.
I did see that bit,
Yeah,
yeah. He was mocking him, wasn't he?
and
Well,
it was
that's it.
all in it was all in good nature. It's like
It
when you do
was.
your imitation of me, it's all in good nature.
It's all in good fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if you like what you see, don't forget to like and
Like,
subscribe,
share, and
comment
subscribe
below.
wherever you are in the world. I know, yeah. Of course,
Good man.
I am completely unable to do the Scots accent, without certainly without laughing, anyhow, and
I'll,
especially on camera.
I'll have to get you a
So,
Bruins book to do some practicing. But I think that's us run out of time, Bob. Where the clock has beaten us yet again.
okay. Well, thanks for having me on. It was great to join you.
You're very
Um,
welcome.
and yeah, hopefully everybody enjoyed it, and hopefully everybody thinks that we're the fools that we really are.
Okay, Bob. All the best. Till the
Cheers.
next time. Good
Thank
night
you.
from me. It's good night from me and good night from him.